Subject this morning, how to retain youth and vigor. I will not keep you very long. Try and give you some of the pertinent points and so that you will be able to keep a youthful feeling body full of vigor and zeal. Now, it is possible to retain youth and vigor if you scientifically live materially, mentally, and spiritually. But it will not come unless you live scientifically on these three planes. You may live on the physical plane, fulfill all the natural laws, but if you neglect the other two, you will lose out. Of course, if you live on the spiritual plane alone and have God contact, you may neglect the others. But it's much easier if you obey all the laws, the three laws: physical, mental, and spiritual. Now let us take up first the obeying the physical health laws, taking up just those important points. First, we must get used to, and this is very important, vegetable proteins. Proteins, as you know, are those things which build the body and repair it and keep it youthful. It is not done by other things. It is done by the utilization of that particular form of food as the proteins. Now, the vegetable proteins are much better for us because they do not accumulate in the system. And so we must get used to vegetable protein. Of course, nuts are hard to digest, but if they are ground up and mixed with fruit juices, then they can be utilized by the body without distress. But if you find the nuts bother you, just don't take so many, but grind them up fine. We must have protein. We must have protein. The body must have protein to retain its youthful form and be vigorous. That's very important. So vegetarians, if you're a strict vegetarian, watch out that you get enough protein. And that's why the master decided that a vegetarian diet plus the protein of dairy products, it seems at this time, is best for all of us. Be sure and get enough protein if you want to be youthful, full of pep. It is very important. Now, one other thing I must say before I leave this subject of protein, especially in food. It is this, that there is a difference. I must bring this up to point out to you the reason why you should stay away from certain proteins. That is, the protein of the dairy products and the proteins of flesh foods must be understood. The difference in them must be understood, even though the chemical composition is the same. The effect on the body is different. In dairy products, there's an entirely different effect of the protein than the similar protein of flesh foods. And it is because the vibration is different. The vibration is different in that case. Although perhaps, let us say, the chemical composition is practically the same, there's a difference there. And being a difference, it will change the cells of your body completely. And you will lose that youthful form and your vigor. Now, one other thing in passing. If we use flesh foods, the protein of flesh foods, although practically the same as dairy products, is not fully utilized by the body. 70%, let us say, in rough figures, of that protein is utilized. What happens to the other 30%? That's what causes the trouble. That's what clogs up your your organs of elimination, producing hypertension and all associated diseases. Why? Because of that one fact, that the protein of flesh foods is not wholly usable by the body and the residue floats around causing trouble. Now that's one of the important things, while the protein of the dairy products almost 100% usable by the body. No residue floating around causing you trouble. Now that's one reason why we should stay away as much as possible from flesh foods. And the other is, as I have said, the vibration is different. The vibration is different due to the fact that the highly developed nervous system of the animal registers in that flesh food a certain vibration. And also when the animal is killed, there is a vibration that is assimilated, so to speak, by the flesh of that animal, and that has its effect on you, without question of a doubt. I'll just give you one illustration. If you meditate regularly and you contact the presence of God, the cells of your body may have the same chemical composition as one who does not, but the cells of your body are different. It changes the cells of your body. They are spiritualized. Why? Because the vibration is different, that's all. And then when you come in contact with people, they will feel that difference in vibration because you have contacted the Holy Ghost and it has flowed through you, changing you, making you a fit instrument for the presence of God to flow through. And so these are very important things as I pass along quickly. Remember just the key points about protein. Forget all the books written about it. Remember those key points, because these were given by the Master as he went over and met many, many people, saw different conditions. So he was in a position, and with his spiritual knowledge and insight and oneness with God, to tell us why and tell us what to do and what not to do. So remember these things. And one other thing, when you take the protein, vegetable or that is like nuts or other proteins, if you have to take the other, be sure and take plenty of vegetables with them, like celery, carrots, fruit juices. That helps neutralize the protein. So much for just a word or two on food pertaining to the laws of health, physical health laws. Now, one or two other things. Don't tolerate constipation. Don't tolerate constipation, because it'll take away that youthful look you should have, and you'll feel mean, awful mean. And what happens? That meanness you feel upsets your peace of mind, and that has its effect on the body, and signs of wear and tear will show up. So don't tolerate constipation. Don't tolerate it. Do something about it, because it takes away your peace of mind, and you will lose that youthful activity you have because of this storing up of poisons in the body because of constipation. Now, the next point is rest your digestive system. Rest it once in a while. I do not mean fast all the time. Some people, they get the fad of fasting. No, give it a rest once in a while, a day or so, a part of the day. And what happens? It sharpens your appetite. You don't get logy, and your peace of mind is not disturbed. You feel good. That has its effect on your body, because mind is all powerful. You must keep the pattern right by watching out for these things. These things are facts. Give the digestive system a rest once in a while, and your senses will be sharper. And feeling good, then the mind reacts on the body, and you will look good. You will look good. Finally, exercising and recharging the body is very important. Why? Why? Because Jesus said, you shall not live by food alone, food, oxygen, and so forth, but by every word that proceedeth from the mouth of God, by the life force in the body. The life force is the key to the whole business. If you want to keep looking young and full of vigor, control the life force. If the life force is flowing in a harmonious way, all the functions are harmonious, aren't they? If it isn't, you cannot have that youth and vigor, because the nervous system is the key to the whole business. Why? Because that's the path through which the life force flows, and the life force is what? The cosmic energy in our body. Thou shalt not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth from the mouth of God. Every bit of cosmic energy that comes in through the medulla center spreads out through us and is allowed to function in a harmonious way. What's the result? The body is harmonious. The functions carry on harmonious, and I will come to the metaphysical reason in just a moment. But remember that the life force is the key to all scientific, physical, mental, and spiritual living. So do your exercises. Why? Because you control life force. And when you control it in the physical, you control it in the astral or mental, then you can control it in the spiritual, which is the greatest thing, because you unite it with the cosmic energy of God, and in that great cosmic energy is His love and His omniscience. Don't you think the body will be better if you do that? Certainly it will. That's the greatest thing. That's why I said in the beginning, if you can, of course, keep wholly spiritual, you supersede physical and mental laws, but we can't all do that. So let's begin where we are. Do the best we can with what we've got. Now, going on just a bit to the one other thing about the health laws is don't overstimulate the body. You burn out the nerves. You irritate them. And if you carry it too far, as I said, you burn them out. What happens? The life force cannot flow. Cannot flow naturally. With irritated, burned out nerves, too much overstimulation, jumping in this mind, jumping around, burns them out. Then the peace of God cannot flow as life force. It is so, because in the life force is the consciousness of God. That's what we forget. Force is the power of what? God's omniscience and love, that's all. And life force, how can you do that to a muscle? Except to the power of God. But you have to feel it and know it, that's all. So, do not overstimulate yourself in all things. Eating, mental activity, work, allowing the emotions to get the best of you. Finally, don't be oversexed. Not going to go into that. You know all about it. One thing I will say, that if you are oversexed, you disrupt the nervous system. Then the life force cannot flow. And the worst of it is, you lose all your peace and harmony. Now, if you lose all your peace and harmony, what are you going to look like? Are you going to have a nice body, youthful? You're going to have full of vigor? No, you're going to be different. Washed up. So let's realize that and be temperate. Do the best you can. If you do the best you can, try a little, God takes hold of you. Of course, the remedy of the whole thing is Kriya Yoga. Because Kriya Yoga takes the energy, the life force out of the different functions of the body. How can they be overstimulated? You can't do it. That's why Kriya Yoga is such a wonderful thing. The motor will not run if there's no juice going into the motor. So you cannot overstimulate any part of the body if there's no life force going there. Kriya Yoga is a great thing. So are the other techniques of self-realization. Why? Because they control life force. Even though if you do not know Kriya Yoga, if you keep your attention there, with the power of will God has given you, and see His infinite light, feel His presence, even you can control sex. It's easier with Kriya Yoga. Now going on just a bit about laws pertaining, the mental laws pertaining to the retention of youth and vigor. This is very important because your thought and mental pattern has a great effect on the body. So we must keep what? We must keep the pattern right. You understand? Keep the pattern right because it has a tremendous effect on you. If you believe that you will keep your body young, and full of vigor and stick to it, it will be so. Because the mind, when it's hooked up with the power of God, controls the body. There's no question about that. So if you do this, keep the pattern right and stick to it. No matter if sickness comes, stick to it. It's bound to win, because the power of God is on your side. Now, one other thing, subconscious suggestion is a very great thing. When you go to sleep tonight, every night, it is not foolishness, just say, the subconscious mind which is in me is the presence of God in me. Take care of me. Make me harmonious. Suggest to me right things, that the life force flow properly through me, that I retain my youth and vigor, and it will be so. If you realize that the subconsciousness is the presence of God in you, how about your assimilation? Digestion goes on all right, doesn't it? Why? Because the subconscious mind takes care of it. Well, that's not just a myth. That's the reality of God in you, carrying out his dream, the pattern of your body as it should be. So realize that. Do that suggestion every night you go to sleep. Just don't fall off to sleep. Do a little work before you fall asleep. Say, God, take care of me. Even that will do it. But just get your mind to realize what the subconsciousness is. God in you, working silently. And the law is this, that it is amenable to the power of suggestion. And if you say, make me well, it will carry it out by giving suggestions to the physical part of you. But if the next day you break all physical laws, then don't blame the subconsciousness. You have to work with it. So that's really an important suggestion. I'm glad I caught it here. Now, other helps in the mental realm to keep you living scientifically, that you may retain your vigor and your youth, are these. Always feel young and strong. Don't suggest to the mind, I'm tired today. Sure, you'll be tired. The body will reflect it. Don't say anything. Rather just feel, well, I'm tired, but God is with me. These are important things. The mind accepts whatever you feed to it. That's why people, when they come to you and say, they say, boy, you don't look good today. First thing, all right, let them say it 2 or 3 times, and you begin to feel that way. That's the power of suggestion. There's no question about it. So when they come to me now and they start that, I either get out or I give such a counter-suggestion that it doesn't affect me. But it's very subtle how it works. That's the worst thing you can say to anybody. If they're sick, you don't have to say, oh, you look wonderful today. No, but don't say that you look bad. Just feel for that person as a child of God. That's the best thing, because that suggestion gets in, where the suggestion by the voice does not reach into the soul. And finally, don't get into the rut of narrow, limited consciousness, that you are circumscribed by the laws of this body and you're subject to them, and sickness is going to get you sooner or later. Get out of that rut. Say, Father, I'm thy creation. Now take care of me. You must take care of me. You put me in this mess, now take care of me. You must talk to God. You must realize that you are a child of God. That'll get you out of the rut of thinking with an inferiority complex. Why shouldn't you? We're all children of God. Now, just a bit as to the metaphysics of this whole business. The metaphysics of keeping your youth and vigor is this, that we have cells in the body, reproductive cells, which reproduce, of course, as you know. Then we have cells that make up the body tissues, somatic cells. And they have formed the different organs of the body, the different parts of the body, and their function is a specialized function to take care of those parts of the body, to pick out the elements of the bloodstream and remake the parts of our body, as I said, from protein. That's their job. What happens? They get lazy. They get lazy. They get in a rut, so to speak. And they don't obey the mind, especially the subconscious mind. But a strong mind, a strong suggestion, and especially if you feel the presence of God within you, can make those cells once more obey and become active cells carrying out their specialized functions of keeping the body round and nice and youthful. They get lazy, they lay down on the job. But by feeling the power of God in you, that's the greatest thing. Or proper suggestions, as I have said, control of the life force through physical, mental, and spiritual right living causes those cells to once more, reactivates them, that's a good word, reactivates them to carry out their proper function, keeping you in good shape. Of course, according to the natural law of a cycle of a body, the body will change and time will be finished. That's all right, but who wants to change it all of a sudden and look old and haggard when you shouldn't? You will not have to if you remember these few simple rules. Now remember, the key to the whole thing is the scientific control of life force in the body. And that scientific control of life force reactivates these cells which are laying down on the job. And they brace up, so to speak, and take care of you. There are one or two other things, like certain yogic practices whereby the use of cold is used through the nervous system, and that is so effective and penetrating that it will follow up every nerve in your body throughout the little nerves, poking those somatic cells, stimulating them, making them once more active. So these things can be done. So much for the metaphysics of you retaining your youth and your vigor. Remember once more, the key is control of life force. So we come to the last and final part of our short discussion. It is this, that the spiritual effect of God communion is the greatest thing to aid you in retaining your youth and vigor. The spiritual aspect is the greatest. And if you can have God realization, if you get God contact, that's the greatest thing. That's the greatest thing, to direct and control the life force, to keep you young, to keep you vigorous. So the spiritual aspect, of course, is the greatest. Now, God does listen to the humble devotee. That's why the spiritual aspect is the greatest, if you can contact God and have the faith. But you have to get that contact. Just praying won't do it. You have to have the contact with God. And this is the important thing. God does listen to his humble, contrite devotee. And if you ask him to give you a youthful body, keep you young, keep you vigorous, he will do it without question of a doubt. But you have to conform to the spiritual law of God contact and faith, and as it says in the Bible, nor be ye of doubtful mind. That's the thing. So God contact is the greatest thing. He does listen to his humble devotees. He listened to the Master Shri Yukteswarji, through Larry Marsha when he was very thin and made him plump. He listened to the Master, through his Master, when he had cholera and such similar things, and they disappeared. And for personal experience, I used to be very thin and skinny. Master says, you'll be all right later. God listened, and now I'm not too bad. I've hard work to get the other way, keep from getting the other way. Why? I'll tell you in a minute. Because if you have God contact, if you live in harmony with God, then all the functions of the body operate good. They operate fine. And your food is assimilated at a very high level. That's why you have to be careful. The food is picked up and used because there's nothing to interfere. You have the presence of God. See, that's the greatest thing. If you have that harmony with God, food digests well, assimilation is on a high level, and the elimination is proper. That's the important thing. That's just as important as eating good food and assimilating, is to get rid of what you don't want there and what you don't need. So if we do these things, especially keep God contact, the spiritual aspect is the greatest. And finally, this is important. Although it takes time, although it takes a little time, contact with the high voltage of the Holy Ghost within you will absolutely change all the cells of your body. And you will radiate the presence of God within you as the Holy Ghost.